He remembered the moment as if the world had stopped moving. 1 second he was standing there, exhausted and irritated, watching the rain fall across the dimly lit military base, wondering why his new assignment included a quiet, seemingly fragile woman from the logistics department. The next second, he was frozen, literally breathless, as an entire unit of hardened Special Forces soldiers stepped forward, boots striking the ground in synchronized thunder, and raised their hands in a sharp, commanding salute. Not to him. Not to his superior officer. But to her. To the woman he thought was just support staff. To the woman he had underestimated every second since he met her. Her name echoed across the courtyard, spoken with reverence, weight, and a kind of pain he didn't understand yet. And as the rain fell harder, blurring the boundary between grief and respect, he realized he didn't know her at all, not the ghosts she carried, not the battles she had survived, not the losses that had carved silence into her voice. He had no idea that beneath her soft tone and calm eyes was a storm that had once shaken entire operations, saved lives, and left scars he could never imagine. But the story didn't begin with that salute. It began weeks earlier, on a morning that felt painfully ordinary, when he walked into the operations room frustrated, burnt out, and convinced he was alone in a fight against the world. His name was Captain Amir Halim, a disciplined officer known for his precision and intensity. His life revolved around missions, reports, and the constant hum of military responsibility. The tiniest delay ignited a fuse inside him, and he had no patience left for people he believed didn't understand the weight on his shoulders. So when he was assigned a new support liaison, a calm, reserved woman named Alina Zuffer, he assumed she was just another file handler who knew procedures but not pressure, rules but not realities. From the first day, she moved quietly through the corridors, carrying stacks of documents and digital tablets with what felt like an unnatural level of gentleness for such a harsh environment. She always kept to herself, never correcting him, never pushing back, never raising her voice even when he snapped over trivial mistakes. She wasn't intimidated, just distant. Controlled. Like someone who had built walls so high even her shadow couldn't climb them. He didn't notice her hands at first, the way they trembled slightly whenever someone mentioned deployment schedules or rescue operations. He didn't notice how she always avoided photos on the walls depicting fallen soldiers. He didn't notice the way her breath caught when helicopters took off, or how she stood perfectly still during the evening roll call, as if remembering someone who never returned for theirs. All he saw was someone who typed too quietly, walked too softly, and apologized too easily. His frustration grew each day, fueled by the pressure of a complex mission that could determine the safety of an entire region. Intelligence leaks, communication breakdowns, late-night strategy meetings, it all stacked on his shoulders. He needed his team sharp, quick, and ruthless with precision. And in his impatience, he saw her as the weakest link. But Alina kept working, calm and steady, even under the weight of his irritation. Every night she stayed long after most officers left, organizing communication logs, fixing encrypted files, preparing intel summaries with meticulous care. He never thanked her. He barely acknowledged her. To him, she was just a background presence, useful, perhaps, but unexceptional. Until everything changed. The turning point came after a disastrous field operation where a miscommunication almost cost them lives. Amir was furious, pacing across the control room long after midnight, convinced someone in support had misrouted intel files. His tone was sharp enough to slice the air when Alina quietly approached with the corrected files and a short explanation that the error came from an external relay, not their team. He barely glanced at her. His anger wasn't truly at the mistake, it was at the pressure, the fear of failure, the relentless burden of responsibility. But he unleashed it anyway, accusing her of negligence, claiming she had no idea what real stakes looked like. She didn't fight back, she simply stepped back, her calm expression cracking for the first time. Something flashed in her eyes, something old and painful. She whispered an apology she didn't owe, then walked out of the operations room, leaving him alone with his anger. He thought that was the end of it. just another tense night. Another outburst he'd move past. He didn't know that she didn't come to work the next day. Or the next. Not until a senior officer arrived, asking where she was, did Amir realize something was wrong. The officer looked at him with a heaviness he didn't understand and quietly said, "She doesn't handle confrontation well anymore. She shouldn't, after everything she's been through." Amir frowned. Everything she's been through? The officer hesitated, then walked away with a look that felt like disappointment and pity. Confusion gnawed at Amir's thoughts until he finally checked her records. Most files were classified. Sections were blacked out. Entire pages missing. But one line wasn't. Former Alpha 9 Special Operations, Tactical Intelligence Lead. Discharged after traumatic loss of unit on Mission Leviathan. His breath caught. Alpha 9 wasn't just any unit. They were elite among elite, soldiers who went into missions others deemed impossible. For her to have been their lead was unimaginable. But the discharge note hit even harder: traumatic loss of unit. Every member except her. He leaned back, stunned, replaying every moment he had brushed her aside, spoken over her, assumed she didn't understand pressure or loss. All the signs he had ignored suddenly made sense: the trembling hands, the quiet eyes, the stillness during roll call, the haunted flinch at helicopter blades. He had mistaken survival scars for weakness. Guilt stabbed through him with every memory of his impatience. Determined to apologize, he searched for her, only to learn she was attending a memorial ceremony that very evening, a tribute for fallen Alpha 9 soldiers. Special Forces units gathered once every year to honor them, and she attended alone, dropping a single white rose for each name. Compelled by something he didn't fully understand, Amir went to the base courtyard where the ceremony took place. Rain poured heavily, turning the ground dark and reflective. Lanterns glowed under the storm, casting long shadows across rows of soldiers standing in solemn formation. He found her at the front, shoulders slightly trembling, holding a bouquet of roses. She moved quietly, placing a rose beneath each engraved name. She whispered something he couldn't hear, her voice breaking at one particular marker: her brother's. And then it happened. A group of Special Forces soldiers, men hardened by battle, faces carved by years of war, emerged from the shadows and approached her. Amir assumed they were there for the ceremony, but instead of passing by, they stopped right in front of her. Every one of them raised their hands in a sharp, respectful salute. Honor to Lieutenant Alina Zuffer, Alpha 9's shield. Their voices thundered through the courtyard. Amir froze. This was the moment that would haunt him. The moment he realized the quiet woman he had dismissed carried a legacy greater than his entire career. She wasn't just support. She was once the heart of a unit that would die for her, and did. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain, and for the first time he saw her, not the paperwork, not the silence, not the tremors, but the strength required to live on after losing everything. He stepped forward slowly, feeling smaller with each breath. He didn't know what to say, how to apologize, or how to undo the harm he had caused. But as he drew closer, she finally looked up at him with eyes that held oceans of grief and years of resilience. In that moment, he understood something profound: sometimes the strongest people are the ones who choose to stay quiet. The ones who carry their battles alone. The ones who continue to serve, even when the world forgets who they used to be. After the ceremony, he walked beside her in silence. She didn't blame him, didn't scold him, didn't remind him of his unkindness. She simply said in a soft voice, "Everyone fights battles you can't see, Captain. So be gentle when you can." Those words stayed with him. In the weeks that followed, he changed, not for her, but because he finally saw the cost of not seeing people fully. He respected her, listened to her, relied on her insights like a true partner. And slowly, though she remained quiet and reserved, she started healing in the small spaces of trust they built together. She taught him that leadership isn't about authority,